One of the simplest things that I've discovered that you can do to totally accelerate your achievement process. If you're trying to achieve greater, bigger things in your life, you need to attend conferences. Now, whether they're virtual, whether they're live, I recommend live, but if you can't get there live, I understand there's an investment, time, all those kinds of things. It takes resources. But if you can get in the room of some of these conferences that are going on, I promise you, your life is going to change. My life has changed. I met Greg at a conference, which is why we're having this conversation here today. So that's where the conversation is going to lead to today. Today, Greg has just went through another Tony Robbins, I think it was a 4-day conference, a virtual conference. It was multiple hours. It was huge. I was unable to attend this one, but he took a lot of notes. Tony Robbins, if you're not familiar with Tony, is somebody to follow. If you're trying to achieve more, be more, have more, all those kinds of things in your life, Tony would be a great resource to do that. I would assume probably you've heard of, if you're listening to us, I'm sure you've heard of Tony, but at the same time, Greg went to that conference. I believe, like I said, it was a 4-day conference, and we're going to get into some of the details of what his big takeaways were. And we're going to have just a dialogue back and forth. So get in the room. That's what I want to start with, folks. Get in the room with these folks. You'll be surprised. The takeaways, and then the strategies and the relationships. Anyways, I don't want to hog the conversation today because that's going to be what we're going to talk about. So anyways, Greg, tell me about this conference, man. It sounds like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a great event. This was my, I guess technically my second event. The first one I attended was a free event in January where he hosted, I think he had like 1.3 million people all around the world. And then from that event, he does some sales and everything. So he sold me on the UPW, the Unleash the Power Within. That was the 4-day event that Randy was talking about. And just coming off of that. And like Randy said, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling, kind of just pumped up and really kind of like a buzzing, just knowing that I can make these changes and the things that he addressed. And we'll go over a few of those things today. But yeah, I mean, if you want me to jump right in, you mentioned one of them was proximity. And I know Tony is a fan of, or a student of, Jim Rohn. So he kind of uses proximity as, who are the 5 people that you're hanging around the most? I know that's kind of the way Jim phrased it, a little bit, kind of paraphrasing there. But yeah, you're right, Randy, just getting in the room. And for me, it was a virtual room, but I connected with, I don't want to say 60,000 people because that's how many people attended the event, but there was people from all over the world that I connected with, still following up with, with networking. I might actually have a podcast guest from that event.
Really? A podcast guest for us?
For us. Yeah.
You
He's
haven't?
he's
I
a
don't remember you
new
telling me that.
mindset coach. So,
Wow.
I just threw it
Cool.
out there and we'll see if it goes anywhere. Um, but just to that point, it's all about getting in the room, and you never know who you're going to meet. Like you said, Randy, we've been friends for, I don't know, 2-3 years. And if we didn't kind of hang out and follow up at that one conference, then this podcast, or at least my participation to this podcast, would not be here. So you never know where life's going to take you and who you're going to meet and where that, connection can take you.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest takeaway for me. And I know you've got other topics you want to bring up, but I can't stress that enough, that if you feel like you're alone, if you feel like you're not achieving, if you feel like you're not really accomplishing what you're set out to do, you're struggling in the day-to-day. The last episode, we talked about setting up some basics, some disciplines for yourself, but you feel like you're really struggling in those areas of your life, find a conference. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it costs. It doesn't matter. It's the point of going through the process of showing up, being a participant. What's going to happen is, and well, Greg, maybe you can share this part of the story, but what has happened for me, they'll put you in different rooms or they'll put you in different groups, and you'll have an opportunity to literally meet people, which is a little bit unnerving so I'm an introvert. And so that's where it's a struggle for me. I've got to push myself outside my comfort zone to actually meet and engage with people at a high level. So it's draining. And I understand that. So if you're in that category as well, understand that it's normal and it's okay. But the good news is Greg mentioned it there just a few seconds ago. It's like it gives you an energy. Even if you are an introvert, it gives you an energy that you've never really experienced before. It's so much fun when you start building friendships, when you start realizing that there are people all over the world that think like you think. So that's the thing about me. I'm a little contrarian in the way I think about things, about life, about health, about wealth. The things that I talk about on the podcast is a little bit contrarian to what I would call the mainstream narrative. So, but when I get out into these conferences, especially ones that are attracting me, I meet people that are similar to me. Might not be the same, but they're similar. For example, this relationship that I've built with Greg, this friendship I've built with Greg, he and I see life similarly. It's not the same. He doesn't do exactly like I do, and vice versa. I don't do exactly like he does. But what we do is we feed each other. He helps me in
Mhm.
areas where I might be struggling, and vice versa. I try to help, encourage. I was giving him some resources before we hit record today. He was trying to work towards something, and I'm like, well, here, try this and try that. We help each other. So that's kind of the point, is that it's the people that you meet is just as important as the content, because the content is fantastic,
Mhm.
but it's the people that you meet coming from those conferences. If you follow up, you mentioned that too, you've got to continuously follow up. But if you follow up with those folks, the relationship that you can build, they're more valuable than money. The more,
Mhm.
because you never know where it's going to lead. Anyways, I'll quit hogging the mic. Tell me more about some of these relationships you built. You actually said you met somebody, or you heard of somebody that was actually from my hometown,
Yep.
which is, yeah, that's super cool. So tell me more about how this has been good for your relationships.
Yeah, so just getting in those rooms, and it doesn't have to be like a Tony Robbins event. It could be a local, networking event, which I've done plenty of those in the past as a realtor. And so, it doesn't have to be something grandiose or whatever. But yeah, I met somebody from Muncie, Indiana, who I immediately thought of Randy.
Muncie, Indiana.
Yep.
Folks, have you ever heard of Muncie, Indiana? Probably not. Most people haven't, but yeah, that's my hometown. About halfway between Indianapolis and Fort Wayne, if you're familiar with Indiana. But anyways, yeah, just a little bit north of Indianapolis. Anyways, hometown.
Yeah, and I actually met somebody. So I live in a small town called Parrish, Florida, which is about an hour south of Tampa. And the Tony Robbins, they create a Facebook group that has a ton of people, and people just post on there, hey, is anybody a chiropractor? Is anybody from Florida? Is any all these different areas? So there was a Florida string, so I hopped on there, and we're trying to organize a meetup for people in the Tampa, Sarasota area, just so we can, like you said, get in the room with like-minded people and actually meet belly to belly, face to face. But yeah, one woman, she's here. She and her husband are real estate investors, wholesalers, flippers. And I said, great, let's meet. I'm not in that space specifically, but I want to network with real estate investors. And she's
And you know,
literally
people that are, right? So it's like,
exactly.
yeah, that's part of it as well. You might be able to refer
Hmm.
people. Anyways, didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure that was part of the point as well. That's super cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's just making that connection. If I can help her, if she can help me, maybe we can work together. I may be able to invest in one of her deals, but she's literally 5 minutes away.
Five
So
minutes away from where you live.
yeah, I mean, our town
Never,
is not
never met
very
her
big.
before.
Nope.
And I've been to Parrish. I've visited your home, and yeah, Parrish isn't very big.
Nope. So it's so yeah, it's one of those things where it might go somewhere, it might die on the vine, but it's one of those things that I'm gonna, follow up and see how I can help her. And just one of those things, it's proximity. If I didn't go to that UPW event, I would have never been in that Facebook group, never met her, never met these other people that I'm about to meet in the area. So yeah, so I mean, it works. And even going back to when I lived in Arizona, networking as a realtor, one of my good friends, he's another realtor out there. I met him at a networking event, ended up joining his real estate team, which didn't really go very far, but we've been friends ever since. Kind of like me and you at the conference. It's just one of those things where like, cool, we kind of vibe, we get along, let's stay in touch. And every time I go back to Arizona, we're grabbing lunch, we're hanging out, we're hopping on, Zoom calls every once in a while just to catch up. It's just creating those relationships, and maybe 8 out of 10 are going to fizzle, but those 2 that stick, they're great and they're awesome, and very grateful for those moving forward.
You just never know where it's going to take you.
Yep.
It's the amazing part. If so, I've early in my personal development journey, I had heard those things. So folks, you might be listening to us today going, yeah, I hear you, but I am an introvert. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. You're coming up. All the excuses are just running off in your mind. I raised my hand. I was the same, exactly the same way for many, many years. But I'm telling you, if you can just pick one event this coming calendar year, pick one. It doesn't have to be very expensive. It can be a virtual event, just like Greg just attended, and just show up, play full out, show up to be intentional with the people that you're going to meet. We're going to talk about some of the content that was shared as well, because it was fantastic too. But I just want to just really make sure they understand that the value is in the people that you meet. You never know where it's going to take you. It could be the next opportunity. The Rich Mind podcast really came out of me being involved in these groups. The belief that people were pouring into me saying, yeah, you can do that. It's like an aha moment. A lot of the guests that I was pulling on early in the podcast were friends that I had built going to these conferences. Yeah, bringing on Greg as a co-host is because I attended a conference and we followed up with this friendship, and we've built this friendship over 2 or 3 years now. Anyways, I know I'm beating this one to death, but the point is I just want you to get some courage. It's going to take some courage. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of an investment. A lot of times they want a little bit of money, right? A little bit is all relative, depends on where you're at in your current situation, and I understand that. It might take some time. If you can have the opportunity to go to a live event, I would recommend that. But if you can't, get into a virtual room. But when you're there and you get to play full out, turn your camera on, engage, talk, ask questions. If you're nervous, just ask questions.
Yep.
You'll be surprised how quickly people will gravitate towards you. If you're the one asking the questions about other people are going to be more interested in you. And so it's going to alleviate a lot of that stress. That's been my experience as well. So yeah, anything else to add so you mentioned about the Jim Rohn quote. So he talks about you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if you're in the room with people that are achieving at a very high level, and I don't care in what way, whether it's health, wealth, legacy, if they've got maybe fantastic family life, maybe they've built a multi-million or $1 billion business or whatever it is. If you get in the room with those people, improve that proximity. You mentioned Tony, that's what Tony calls it, improve that proximity. Where could your life go?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm living proof that if you do it intentionally, it can take you a long ways, which is why it's super exciting. So anyways, I hog the mic there again, man. Help me out. Tell me more about these relationships or any of the other pieces of the content, man, at that event. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and I would just say that too. I'm an introvert for sure, and you nailed it on the head. Ask
See,
questions.
I love that you say that, because I told you before we hit record, you are the best at networking, in my opinion. You are one of the best networkers I've ever met. And to hear that you're an introvert, so folks, just understand that if you're that way, I get it. And Greg's, admitting he's the same way, but don't let that be your barrier to keeping you from making these connections. Anyways, tell me more. If you're an introvert and you're one of the best networkers I've met, tell me how you get through that process for yourself.
Well, I was going to say too, like just because you're an introvert doesn't exclude you from being a great networker. Or, a lot of podcasters are introverts when you wouldn't
Yeah,
think that.
exactly. Who
But
would have thought that I'd be out here talking into this microphone, releasing episodes? And
yeah, it's kind
exactly.
of crazy. But
It is.
but no, you nailed it right on the head, because if you're curious about other people, you're interested in them. You don't have to be interesting. You just have to really pull out like, hey, what are you here for? Where are you from? Oh, Muncie, Indiana. Great. Let's go talk, whatever it is. Just ask questions. That was my key to success is at networking as a realtor, just asking informative questions, silly questions, doesn't matter, because people, they just love talking about themselves. A lot of people do. Introverts, maybe not so much. But no, you nailed that one on the head. So that was really great. So yeah, so the other thing that I was going to mention too about the event, you said play full out, and I kind of knew this about the Tony Robbins event, but he is all about energy, and he calls it, like physiology, movement. And so the first day I couldn't attend 100% because I had some things going on. But the second day, he has these dancers on stage, and you're pumping your arms and doing all this stuff. And
So
I
you're
didn't.
doing that in your room? I can just see you doing it right now. Is that what you're doing?
The first day I didn't, because I was just
Oh,
like,
really?
I had like a weird mindset of like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Like, this is just weird to me. It was foreign to me. And then the next day was a Saturday, and I had nothing going on. Like my calendar was clear. It was like probably a 12-hour day. So, mixing some breaks and stuff. And all these people were on the camera, like dancing and having fun and like doing
Really?
all this
So you're
stuff. I'm
seeing other
like,
people doing it? So
yeah,
yeah.
you see everybody doing it. It's really cool. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I paid to be here. Why am I like, mean mugging here and being like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's not me. And I'm like, I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to have some fun. And it was great. Like, I didn't, nobody's watching me. Not that that matters anyway. It was awesome. And it really improved, like, just kind of like my mindset going into it, moving around, like felt good. I was standing up. I was like doing some like shadow boxing, like just stupid stuff, but it was great. So again, goes back to what we talked about last episode or a couple episodes with discipline of just doing the things that you might not want to do. And in the moment I was like, oh, I feel weird, but if Tony Robbins is arguably one of the best coaches in the world and he's changed millions and billions of people's lives, who am I to like, say, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I jumped on the train and it was more fun that Saturday and Sunday. And so, yeah, so he talks about a lot about physiology and energy, but also just playing full out and don't judge, like, oh, that's stupid. They're pumping their arms. I'm not going to do that. Just give it a try. And if you don't like it, then that's fine. But at least, take a swing at the bat. Don't just watch the balls go by.
Love it. So that's one thing I've heard several times from others in my journey of trying to figure out energy, is that we don't get energy. Energy isn't something that is given to
You
us.
create it.
We generate it. Yeah, we create the energy. And so that's what he's talking about with that physiology, right?
Yep.
Your body moving. We talked about that in the past episodes as far as for our health part, right? For ourselves is get yourself moving. Just basic things. I talked to you in the last episodes about just doing some air squats. Let's see how many air squats you can do. I don't care if it's 2 or 20 or 100. The point is just get yourself moving, get your body moving, generate that energy from within. I heard that for the first time. And once again, it's like the first time I heard that, I questioned, is that real? But like you're talking about, then you experience it, you go through it yourself, you get your body moving, you start thinking, I'm picturing you, because we're obviously on screen here today. I'm picturing you, just moving and grooving. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
great.
yeah, even listening to us today, if you're watching us on video, just having a good time, just
Yep.
realizing that get yourself moving is so important and so crucial to generate the energy that you're looking for. It's not something that comes to you. You don't get energy. You generate it. You create it. Love that, man. That's perfect. What else you got?
So the next thing, I guess it's a little more serious, but he was talking about like practical psychology, because obviously a lot of personal development comes down to our psychology, what's going on in our head, the chatter, as you say. So one of the first questions that he asks was, what's stopping us from moving forward, from achieving our goals? And, you know, I think I knew the answer right away, but he said it was fear. And it really hit me of like, and then he kind of went into a few layers of, is it fear of rejection, which is very real, fear of, relationship and the business person telling you no, fear of success, fear of failure, all these things. And I was like, check, check, check. Like I've all, at some points of my life, or sometimes they overlap, but he hit the nail on the head of, what are people going to think of me? And what if I'm a failure, or what does a failure even mean? It's like, to me, like a failure is an event. It's not who I am. It's not part of me. It's, I did something, it didn't work. And that was like a mind kind of shift as well, just to put that off of me and just like, yeah, no, that didn't work. Let me try something else that will work. So that was really cool. That was like the opening of what stops us from moving forward. And it was just fear, the F word of fear.
The F word of fear. I love that. So yeah, I'm going to ask you here in a second, as far as like, I'm sure he gave you some things to try to work through that. But so you just said it. And that was one of the mindset things I had to go through with myself, even too. So the first time I heard that failure is an event, it's not that I am a failure, it's that I failed. So it's like you failed at an event. It's not who you are,
Right.
a task, and whatever that you're trying to accomplish. You might not have succeeded, and it's so. To me, it's even a little bit deeper than that. We attach that meaning, that quote unquote failure, and if we can try to get away from that, thinking that it's good or bad, failure isn't good or bad. It's just a result. So then we learn from that result, and then we try again. I use the word pivots. We pivot again. We try again. And as long as you don't allow that event, that negative event, postpone you from moving forward, that was so when I internalized that for the first time and really heard that, because I always, like you said, I always felt like I was a failure. I am a failure, or what I mean, I can't do these things. I always had it. You mentioned it, is a fear of success. As crazy as that sounds,
Mm-hmm.
the first time I heard that, and it was like light bulbs are going off in my mind, because it's like, yeah, I was afraid to succeed because of what I was worried about, what other people would think about me. Now that's so you hear that in your mind, and it's like, wow, is that really a thing? And yes, it is. At least it was for me. And like you said, the overlap, but working through that in your own personal development process it's a challenge. But I'm telling you, if you can do it and work through it, on the other side of it, you'll get beyond this fear, and you can continue to take these actions, these basic actions, like we talked about in the last episode, and your life is going to change, which is super exciting, super cool. So did he have any like ideas, some things to try to do to break through or move past some of this fear that we've got for ourselves?
Yeah. So the one that I wrote down, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, you mentioned the word results. I literally wrote down just take pride in effort, not results.
Take
So,
pride in effort. Okay. Take pride in, I just wanted to repeat that because that was good. Take pride in effort, not the result.
yep. Yeah.
Love
So,
that.
it's when you were, maybe when you were a kid and your dad said, I don't care about if you hit a home run as long as you did your best. And
Yes.
you kind of roll your eyes sometimes as a kid, like, no, I want to hit the home run or I want to
Right.
be the superstar or whatever that looks like. But as an adult, I totally get it because it is literally working on what do your systems and processes look like? Are they set up correctly? Are you doing the right things? They might not always result in success, like you're talking about. It could result in a failure, and then you pivot and try something else. But as long as you ran that down and you gave it 100%, and you know 100%, okay, option A is not going to work, but I did everything that I could, then you have pride in, all right, I'm good. Now let's go to option B. Now we're still looking for those results, but just taking pride in the effort that you're putting in. It really hit home with me of you put in the effort and then the results will materialize how they will, no matter what.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So one thing and I this hit me as you were mentioning that because I do this all, it's almost like a habit with my children when they're leaving, when I with them right there and I'm saying goodbye to whatever, I'm always telling them, go do your best. Give yourself do your best. Be 100%. Whatever you're doing, just be 100%. And I think that I say that with that kind of thought in mind. It's
Hmm.
not worrying about the result. The result will take care of itself. But all you can do is be your best in that moment. So yeah, I once again, I just love these conversations because I didn't know you were going to bring these topics. You've got them down, and so you're sharing with them. So I'm reacting to them in real time, and I love that because this was a process to realize that for myself, and then I share that with my children or anybody else that I come in contact with as much as I possibly can. I'd say at the very end of each podcast, go out there and focus on being great. So what that means is
Hmm.
just focus on being the best version of yourself and the results will take care of themselves. I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic because it's once again, it's easy to comprehend that in your own mind, thinking about that, but go to work and try to implement that with everything that you're trying to do. Every process, every step. And it's not a perfection thing. It's just doing your best. Don't beat yourself up over for perfection because there isn't anything perfect. There's just doing your best in that moment. And that's all you can do. Each one of us, that's all we can do at any given time.
Yep. Yeah. No. Well said, man. So I don't know if you want me to dive into more content or you want to jump off another direction.
Not jumping off, man. Let's go. What do you got? Keep going. Yeah, I like it. What else you got? Like I said, I'm like experiencing it in real time. So yeah, I love it. What you got?
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one I want to kind of jump into, but
There's so much, right?
there is, yeah, and so I guess I'll jump into the limiting beliefs part of the weekend. So this was a really powerful exercise. He calls it the Dickens process,
I
which
haven't
is
heard
from
that.
the Charles
Well, I'm Charles
Dickens.
Dickens. I'm familiar with Charles Dickens, but I've never heard of a Dickens process. Yeah, tell me more about that.
So I believe it's from the the Christmas, the past, the future, and the present, that kind
Mm,
of thing.
okay,
Um, but I'm trying to find it in my notes here. But yeah, the limiting beliefs was basically you write down your limiting beliefs, and there was three of them that he asked us to write down. Of I'm not good enough to own a business, or I'm not disciplined enough to lose the last 10 pounds, which is one of my things, right? So it's
sure,
coming off of the last couple episodes,
right.
and then he takes you through this process, and it's kind of silly, but he does like some silly things to make you realize like just how dumb that limiting belief is. You know what I mean? Like, especially for me, like I'll use that as an example with the losing the last 10 pounds of, I dropped 60 pounds, but how stupid, silly it is it for me to tell myself I can't lose the last 10 pounds. I did the hardest part of the work. I did 90% of the work. I know how to do it. I know what it's like. I know what to avoid, what to, all those things. And then he kind of makes it, you say it to yourself in like like the silly stupid way of like I can't lose the last 10 pounds, like like you kind of like mocking yourself as like,
Yeah,
and when you do that over and over again, it's just like it just kind of hits you really hard of like how stupid is it that I let my foot off the gas and I'm giving myself an excuse. Yeah, I lost 60 pounds, that's good enough, and it might be good enough if that was my goal, but that's not my goal. I want to continue and I want to just lose that last 10 pounds or whatever that looks like for me. So it was just addressing your limiting belief. And he really takes it to like a negative level where for like 15 or 20 minutes, and it kind of gets like emotional. but he'll just drive home to you, what if you stay the same? What if you're, you know, what if you don't open that business now? What are you going to think about yourself in 5 years? What do your finances look like in 5 years? And he really drives it like, I don't want to say like, not bully, that's not the right word, but he drives that negative feeling for a long time. And he's like, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to want to quit. And he just really drives it home of how negative your life is going to be in 20 years, in 15 years. And it really, it gets you emotional. Like I was crying and like all this stuff. And I was like, holy crap, if I'm like this in 15 years and I'm still battling the last 10 pounds, what's that going to do for the chatter in my head and my like everything? And then he flips it and then says, great, what's going to happen if you lose that 10 pounds in the next 6 months? Then it totally turns into a positive. I can do it. I'm telling myself this BS, the beliefs and stories, or the other word for BS, right? Um,
Yep.
and he just makes it. He really hits home with the negative and the positive and what that looks like. And it was just really such a powerful. I mean, people all over the screen were just emotional and crying. It was just really quite an experience and something I've never experienced before. So yeah, that was a really big takeaway for me, was the limiting beliefs and how much BS I was really telling myself, and all the excuses that we all tell ourselves, and it just accepts our reality the way it is. And that's fine if that's the way, if that's your goal. But if that's not your goal, then you really have to kind of go after it and flip that limiting belief to, yeah, I can do this. And what I've been telling myself is so silly and stupid that achieving this would be, it's going to be a piece of cake. And that kind of flipped the switch for me.
So it's the thoughts that are so many things are going through my mind. Let me see if I can't break them apart one at a time. So the first one being that, so it's like he anchored that feeling within you, that negative feeling, that what if it doesn't work out
Yep.
the way you intended it to be, which brought you to that sadness, or that even that fear, even more of what your life could be, or what it would turn out to be if you didn't reach these goals and that type of thing. So
Mhm.
that set up one emotion, and then he flipped it right on. It sounds like, and like try to paint this picture of what it could be. He's fantastic at that. That's one thing that he's really good at, that it's like he anchors in those emotions. So you're
Mhm.
talking about limiting beliefs, and and I'm sure we all do. So I'm not special by any means. I've got a lot of limiting beliefs within myself. And a lot of those for me stem from core wounds. We've talked about core wounds in the past, some emotional event that has happened in the past. We've all had our own traumas, whether it was a bullying event, whether it was whatever it was. So a core wound is an emotional event that triggers off these negative self beliefs within yourself. Right in the future, you'll get triggered by an event that will just send you down this spiraling negative place that it's hard to get out of if you don't catch it in real time, which is what it sounds like he was trying to do to you in that experience. He was trying to
Mhm.
take you, he was triggering you with those emotions of negativity,
Yep.
but then he was bringing it back to you with a positive. So that's what might be my encouragement for folks listening to us today, is that go through the process of trying to figure out what your core wounds are. Where is it that you're falling into this trap of self negativity, self doubt, imposter syndrome, whatever it is that's keeping you from doing whatever it is that you're meant here, what you're put here to be, and go through that process. Is it going to be challenging? Yes. Is it easy? No. But I will tell you that if once you get through that negative feeling, like what Greg experienced, he had those negative feelings, you can flip it then on its head and start picturing and envisioning, okay, well, if I'm able to break through these negative things, these imposter syndromes, these I can'ts or I shouldn'ts, all of that negative chatter that's going on in your mind, when you're able to break through those things and bring it back to a positive, that's when you're going to be able to start taking better and more action every day, which goes back to what we talked about just a little bit ago, as far as the energy. You're going to be able to generate more energy within your own life to then go be more active, to do the basics like we talked about on the last episode, to do the exercises, to consume the water, to make sure you are saving at least 10% of your income each week or each month. That's where all of this kind of stems from. So I love that self-doubt, that non-belief in yourself, but take yourself through that emotional, it's going to be a roller coaster, but take yourself as much as you possibly can with that through your core wound exercise. I would refer back to the episode that we talked about that, and really get yourself honed in on what is it that's holding you back. Because my guess, because it was this way for me, was a story that I was kept telling myself over and over and over that 100% was not true. Now, it felt like it was true, but it wasn't. And until I, number one, realized what it was going on, but then I was able to then flip it and turn it into more of a positive, then I was able to take different actions going forward. So, anyways, that's what I heard from that explanation, man. So hopefully that was a little bit of more of a piggyback, kind of trying to take that and take it to the next level. Hopefully that was good. Any thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, like I say, just to close out, that part of it, he does a really good job because obviously when you're going through the emotional part of it, it's very quiet, very calm. You're inside your head, that kind of thing. And Tony Robbins is all about creating a state, the physiology of state and positivity and smiling and pumping your arms and doing all that stuff. And it works. I didn't think going into it, I was a skeptic, but now I'm on board. And he does flip the switch of, you're in that emotional state for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And then he'll just flip it. And then all of a sudden there's music on. And then, so you're literally like, I was doing like the Rocky shadow boxing. Like that was like kind of like my move. And then all of a sudden you're like, you just kind of like, you switch. And it's because he's pumping the energy into the room and you're not even with him. Like I'm on the Zoom,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you see everybody else and, everybody's doing the dancing and whatever. And it just switches. And in my mind, he's like anchoring that state, like you said, of this is such a stupid story. Now that I'm like pumped up and energized of like, no, I can do this. And this is such an easy goal for me to achieve and that kind of thing. And it was just really such a cool switch. And he does he's a master at it. Like, that's why he's the best. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just wanted to kind of piggyback on that, but it was such a great experience. I didn't know what I was kind of walking into with that one. I know some people in the chat when we were doing it, they bowed out because it was very hard
Really?
emotionally, some of them, but I was like, I'm here, I'm playing full out and whatever happens, happens. And it was great. It was phenomenal. And like you said, I'm coming off that event with the buzzing and the dedication of, what, I can achieve those 3 limiting beliefs. And it's looking back on it on the piece of paper, I was like, how did I even believe these things? They're so stupid. You know what I mean? But when you're
Sure.
caught into it and you're spiraling,
It's that
it's
story, right? It's that
it's the
story you kept
story.
telling yourself. Yeah. That story that you believed was true. And now you've questioned it. You've brought it to light. You've questioned it. And now you can make a different decision moving forward. I love that. That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
super cool, man. And
Yeah.
so it's like even having this conversation today, we're talking about generating energy. I can feel your energy right now. It's like you totally, you can definitely, yeah, exactly. Bouncing and dancing. You can feel it. I can hear it in your voice. I can hear it in your passion. This even just the conversation we're having today. So
Good.
congratulations. And that all started with you making that decision to get in that room, to push yourself. Like you said, you were having that little bit of uncomfortable feeling in the beginning. Do I want to do this? I'm going to feel silly. When in reality, these people don't know who you are. You're sitting in your own living room or your office or wherever you're at. You could be on your phone, whoever. No one's going to see you doing it. No
Right.
one even cares. No one cares.
Yep.
Anyways, I love that you played full out and got the most out of it. Sounds like it was great. I need to get to one myself. Maybe we can attend one, to whether it's live or even another virtual one sometime. I know he does multiple. I don't know if it's multiple a year, but definitely does it. Over the years, we'll have to try to get to one.
Yeah. That sounds great, man.
Fantastic. Well, anything else? Anything on that list? Anything else you want to bring up, or do you want to start wrapping this one up here today? This has been a lot of fun.
So the last one I want to jump into is what he calls why do we do what we do? And it's basically the human needs, which I've kind of heard about this before, but never really dove into it. And he goes over the 4 primal ones and the 2 spiritual ones. So the 4 primal are certainty. The second one is uncertainty/variety. The third one is significance. And the fourth one is connection and love. And the 2 spiritual ones are growth and contribution. So he kind of takes you through the exercises of what 2 primal needs are you currently living in right now? Are they serving you? And then which 2 do you really need to live into to achieve those goals? And it really makes you aware of if you're aligned, if you're not aligned. If you're not aligned, how do you need to create that alignment? So I kind of figured out I was a little bit out of alignment with some of my needs and the actions I was taking in my day-to-day life. So that was really cool. It was, we can dive into that if you want, a few of them.
Well, how about this? How about we make that the next episode?
All right.
You want to do that?
Sure.
Maybe that'll be our teaser.
That'd be
How
great.
about we keep that, make a note of that. We'll make that the next episode we dive into. We'll go into that deeper because I have a feeling that will be a pretty deep conversation
Yep.
that we could probably extend into a full episode. So yeah, I've got already so many things going into my mind just with what you shared right there that, yeah, let's put a pin in that and maybe let's come back on the next one. So folks, if that sounds intriguing to you, then I highly recommend, number one, you subscribe to the Rich Mind Podcast on your platform of choice. You can check us out on YouTube as well. And yeah, don't miss the next episode. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into a lot of these Tony Robbins concepts, these principles. So a lot of them, they're simple. They're not easy. They're not easy to implement, but they're simple. And when you grasp them and find the ones that you're needing at that time, some of the things that we're sharing, you might not need those today, and that's okay. You're going to find them when you're ready. That's the beauty part of the personal development journey. You're going to find the things that you need on your journey. And that's the whole point with us here on the podcast, trying to share as much wisdom and things that we've learned, some experiences that we've had, to try to shed a light on this potential for you, shedding some of these self-doubts, getting in these rooms, getting some more confidence, making some better decisions. Who knows where that's going to take you? And that's where it's super exciting for us. So we appreciate your time and attention. If you wouldn't mind sharing this podcast with your family and friends, we'd greatly appreciate that. As I mentioned, head out to the podcast platform of your choice. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a review, that would be fantastic. But you can also reach out to us at info@richmind.co and give us some feedback there as well. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you've got any topics, if you have any questions about some of the things that we've been discussing, don't hesitate to ask. We'd be more than happy to try to help you on your journey as well. So I mentioned earlier, right? I tried to sign off with focus on being great. And what I mean by that is go out there and do your best. And every activity that you're doing today, doesn't matter what it is. It could be the conversations you're doing. It could be the activities that you're doing. It doesn't matter what it is. Focus on being great. And if you do that consistently, I promise you, your outcomes are going to be so much better, which is going to bring you into this dream life that I know you're striving to get to, which is exactly what Greg and I are trying to do for ourselves as well. So go out there, have a fantastic day, and we'll look forward to coming back at the next episode again very soon. Yes, we're going to rock it out. Have a great day, folks. Talk soon. Bye now.